Welcome to the show where we unearth new ways of looking at ever-evolving life around the world, seen from a number of different industries, cultures, and backgrounds. But there's one thing that unites everyone I speak to. They all want to do their part to make the world better in their own unique ways. It's a uniting passion. Whether they're from the commercial world, third sector, or public sector, from the global north or the global south, my name is Philippa White, and welcome to TIE Unearthed. Hey there, and welcome to episode 34 of TIE Unearthed. Today, I'm speaking with my friend Michael Jager, Chief Creative Officer of Solidarity of Unbridled Labor, which is a studio that conceptualizes and realizes ideas that help guide and create culture and positive change within it. And today, we're going to be talking about how brands are truly living ideas and how to make them and business more human. Clearly something that I really resonate with. Now, for more than 30 years, Michael, who's Vermont's first awarded AIGA Design Fellow, has been creating and collaborating with brands, driven by the idea that design distinction matters most, and that brands are truly living ideas. His groundbreaking strategic brand design work continues with Solidarity of Unbridled Labor. Guided by Ezra Pound's simply but elegantly stated principle, make it new. His multidisciplined collaborative output for a multitude of today's most recognizable and relevant brands, including Burton Snowboards, Nike, Fish, MTV, Virgin, Lululemon, Seventh Generation, Masterclass, and Patagonia, just to name a few, is recognized worldwide. Through Solidarity's own brand design incubation platform, Michael has helped create unique brands, including Mamava. He is also the co-founder of the Karma Birdhouse, which is a creative economy community space, home to more than 60 inspiring entrepreneurial entities, as well as the Iskra Print Collective, which is a nonprofit screen printing studio and art education space, creating an environment where curiosity never sleeps. To say you're going to feel inspired after this episode is honestly an understatement. You may even want to have a pen and paper nearby to write things down. So enjoy this one. Here's Michael. Hello, Michael. It is lovely to have you with us. It's great to see you on the other side of the screen. How are you?
Very good. You as well. Hi, Philippa.
Hello. It's lovely to have you with us. So thanks to our mutual friend, Juliana, we've been chatting for a while now. And I have to say, since we first spoke, I really got a taste of why brands like Burton Snowboards, Fish, Seventh Generation, Nike, Masterclass, and Patagonia just love working with you. And it's because the way that you see the world is just so inspiring. And I just would love for you to just bring you to life for our listeners today.
Wow. Well, that's a very, very kind.
Can you? Maybe just tell people a little bit more about you.
A little bit of context, I guess. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for your time and invitation to be part of this conversation with you, and I thank Juliana as well. I mean, this has been an amazing experience, just getting to learn more about what you're doing with TIE and everything that you're doing in the world. So it's an honor to be here. So thanks so much for the invitation. As far as to give some context, I guess, I can give a little bit of background as to the frame by which I kind of see the world and just how incredibly fortunate I feel to be able to do the things that I do with the amazing people that I get to do them with. I can give you a little context for kind of how I even got into design in the creative space, if that would be helpful as a start. But it's, essentially I'm a dyslexic farm boy from a small town in northern Vermont, about 15 minutes from the Canadian border. Math was not particularly a friend of mine when I was growing up. And I'm actually surprised they let me graduate high school because I was so severely broken down on that side of it. But thankfully, I managed to figure out that I could draw. And my mother was incredibly kind and open-minded and open-hearted about nurturing that along. And then I was very fortunate as well to have some teachers along the way, a guy named Keith Gallup, who I still know as my high school art teacher. And he was like, you could maybe do something with this art thing. And I just was completely fixated on music and art and drawing. And then that got me to design school in Montreal, which was in the late 70s, so right in the heart of the punk rock scene. So my whole life from the farm became looking through the lens of album covers. I ended up becoming a designer because I wanted to do album covers. So that was really the frame of it. But when I got into design school, I started to realize, this is kind of an interesting space that is more than just making the art. It's like ideas with substance really do matter. And I started to unlock a little bit more because it was a really great international group of teachers and professors there that were really powerful. And so when as I kind of went forward, I started getting fascinated also with industrial design, and I'll talk more about multidiscipline fixation that I have. But that sort of set me in motion to understand the more empathy, the more learning, the more insight that you can gain, the more effective your ideas will be. And as much as I wanted to do album covers and I love beautiful craft and art, it was more and more intriguing to me to find people to work with that wanted to do more with ideas than, beautiful is good, but it's something more. So that's kind of the essence of, I guess, how I got into
where it all came from,
the creative world.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Actually, I read something somewhere. You like the Clash, am I right?
Oh yeah, I was fortunate to be able to meet Joe Strummer and those guys before Joe passed away. But I could say the Clash probably changed my life. Yeah.
Why?
They were, more than anything, pretty radical thinkers about what really mattered, and they lived it. I mean, they really lived the DIY punk ideology. And they did it with intelligence. It was not just a show. It was a ideology that I think they truly lived. And Joe Strummer, it's really sad that he's not with us anymore, that he's not here. But it's, they just had ideas that opened my mind to see things differently and focus on what was important and that you could change things. It's, are you taking orders or are you taking over is one of Joe's thoughts.
Yeah, how amazing! My partner, he's a huge fan of the Clash. So
nice.
So you're the creative director of Solidarity of Unbridled Labor, and I just wonder if you can tell our listeners what you find yourself doing most days, and what gets you excited about getting out of bed in the morning.
Wow. What do I do most days? I kind of exist, I guess, in a multidiscipline, beautiful pinball machine by design. I'm moving between strategic work and thinking, writing, designing, directing, and I get to work with a lot of different disciplines and a lot of different categories. So for a little bit of clarity, I mean, Solidarity of Unbridled Labor is a strategic brand design firm, so our formal handle. So we do, deep strategic thinking and process to be able to then express those ideas and those intentions through design. And we're very much, and always have been, focused on purpose-based entities and enterprises in the world. And we work in a vast spectrum from agriculture to technology and music and entertainment and many, many different spaces. But it's really about strategy. So that allows me to interact with a lot of different categories, with a lot of different people, which is kind of what my day and my life is designed to be. And it kind of went from being a traditional designer into blurring the boundaries into strategy and multidiscipline design with industrial design and a number of things. Within all that, what excites me getting out of bed every day, I guess, is the fear of not getting out of bed. Is probably what keeps me getting my feet on the ground. But I don't know, I think it's just stretching your head. The learning definitely makes me happy, and I thankfully get a lot of opportunity to spend time with people that are a lot more intelligent than I am, that I get to learn about things from, agronomic engineers in Norway, as an example. And I mean, there's every single day, I just get the opportunity to learn things, and that really makes me happy.
So, and actually just touching on maybe one or two projects that you're working on maybe now, or even in the past, but something just for listeners that maybe don't work in the creative space, that don't necessarily understand this world, because it's communications is so huge, and there's different areas of it, obviously. And you explained, obviously touched on what you do, but can you bring it to life in a sort of a tangible example of something a project that you're quite proud of or excited about?
Yeah, I could give a couple of examples. So one that was really defining, that I, again, happened to be fortunate with the intersections of life that happened, is Burton Snowboards. So we've worked with Burton Snowboards for nearly 30 years at this point. And, being fortunate to be part of the development and creation of not only a culture, which is snowboarding internationally, but a brand that was the leader in that space, that really helped to shape a culture and itself. And literally, I was in the basement of my house, and our team was there, and we were 6 or 7 people. And Jake Burton Carpenter, who sadly has passed last year, he was in his barn, 100 miles away, pressing boards with, 8 or 9 of his friends. And the universe allowed us to connect, and we just kind of related and started making things together and making ideas together. So that's an example of one that, when you think about what strategic brand design is, again, that formal idea, it's really about identifying ideas that are meaningful in people's lives, understand the purpose and intention behind them, and then use design to express and shape those ideas so people can find the magnet that you've created. That's pretty much what we do.
So talk to us, and you've touched on it now, but maybe you can bring it to life in a little bit more idea. Just, what brands inspire you, and talk to us a bit about living ideas.
What brands inspire me? There's a few examples I would note now. And again, I actually don't really like the word brand at all. I think it's a...
So talk to us about that. Yeah, talk to us about that. Because I mean, this is...
It's kind of a tired and overused and often misunderstood term. One of the very simple things that I do is I like to drop the R. So think of it as a band, back to the class.
Back to
where essentially that's what it is. No matter how you break it down, ultimately, these enterprises, no matter how big, they may be 50,000 strong in people around the world. They could be a startup with 3 people in a basement. It's a band of people with an intention and a point of view, and it is a living organism or way of being. No matter what, that's what it is. And there are healthy ones, and there are not so healthy ones, and and I think that really helps keep my simple framework clear for me. Is like, that's what it is, And then a brand is, it's a set of experiences that deliver on a promise. That's essentially what you're doing every day, whether it's words, products, images, ideas, cultural manifestations. But I like to think about it as a band of people. And then you realize, they're human, they're flawed, they're beautiful, they're surprising, they create love, they create desire. All of a sudden it dimensionalizes it in a different way versus some, identity you're defending that is just a machine that is this kind of, structured, mechanism for capitalism. They're
totally
different than
and
that.
And it's interesting, just you talking in that term or in that way, bringing it to life, it shows even more the necessity of authenticity, right? Because we want to treat the people who fall in love with that band or the brand as human beings. So if I, as a human being, am not authentic, then people won't trust me, and then people won't like me as a human being, as a person, right? So you want to, as a person, be open and transparent and nice and human,
exactly,
right? And then why would the brand be any different? Because we need, so that's
you have to,
fascinating.
I think that's exactly it. I mean, you have to maintain curiosity and connection. And a lot of people will talk about, their connection with the audience. But a lot of that is digital, which is real on many levels. But it's like, you really have to be curious. You have to be interested. You have to listen. And it's getting harder and harder to be good at that. But I go right back to the Clash, like Joe Strummer and those guys, like every show they would talk to their audience. Like that's how I met them. It's like they wanted to, no matter how big they got, they never forgot that they are you and you are them. And they just had, they were very talented at what they did. And I think the best brands or the best bands of people are incredibly interested. They're more interested than interesting often. They're just curious. They're great listeners. Like Jake Carpenter, he would forever have conversations with kids he would meet on chairlifts on mountains, like forever. It would drive the engineers at Burton. I was talking to this 15-year-old kid, and he had this idea about a binding or something. But it's like he understood, like, well, that kid probably worked all summer long to raise the $1,000 to be able to get a new board and a season's pass. And it's like he's going to have more conviction than someone who's been so myopically focused on engineering a binding. But
it's so funny you say that, because a friend of mine, Steve, I can't remember his last name. I grew up with him at school, junior high school, elementary school. I mean, he is one of those people. He now works at Burton.
Oh, really?
But Steve was, everything was Burton, but he knew that company inside and out. He was an incredible snowboarder since he was small. Yeah. And everything, isn't it beautiful? And he now, I don't know if he still does, but the last time I heard, he's still, I think he worked in marketing even at Burton. I don't know. Anyway, you might even, Steve, I need to find out his last name. You might even know him, but he is one of those people that if you talk to him, and I think this is what's really interesting is with Ty, we talk a lot about the importance as a leader of any company is empathy. Mm-hmm. Because once you start to empathize and you start to, and active listening. Yeah. Active listening is when you empathize and you start to ask questions, but you properly listen to the answers. That's when you become a better leader, but also that's when, as a leader of that company, you start to really be able to drive that company in the direction it needs to go in, because that's the only way we can move forward with things in a transparent, human way.
Absolutely. I mean, that is an art form that's being sadly really negatively impacted by a lot of technology. I mean, I really think that curiosity is being compromised on a lot of different levels. People living under the illusion that because they can search something and they can get access to seemingly good answers, it doesn't have the depth that it needs or the multi-sensory experience that's needed. And also the demands that a lot of companies put on people performance-wise, hitting those quarterly numbers, it crushes the room for curiosity. And that's an extremely dangerous situation. And that is coupled with the art of listening. Actually, one of the most profound things I saw, honestly, in my life, I really was so impacted by this. There's a guy named Spalding Gray who sadly is no longer with us. He was an essayist. I don't know if you've ever read any of his writing or anything, but he would do presentations, very entertaining, very insightful communicator. And he did a presentation at the Flynn Theater, which is a theater here in Burlington. It's about 3,000 people, beautiful old Art Deco theater. And I went to a show that he did that was a national tour, and it was called Everyone is Interesting. And he basically went to the theater, sold out. His presentation is a desk, 2 chairs, a couple glasses of water. And he goes out about 15 minutes before the show and just introduces himself to people, chats with a number of people. When he goes down to the stage, he's just like, oh, Becky Smith or Philippa White, come on down. Like, he would bring a person out of the audience that he just met 10 minutes before and would basically talk to them in front of 3,000 people and show every single person is interesting on this planet if you are interested in being curious. And I remember there was a 10-year-old girl from a farm town, Georgia, that was right near where I grew up. That's who he started with. He talked to 7 people that night. And I never forgot that. And it always reminded me, And it's part of this vocabulary. It goes back to the design and the strategy vocabulary. When I hear people use target audience, it just kills me because it distances you from the reality. It's like, you cannot use those terms. I hate the militant vocabulary and lexicon that came into communication, like tactics and war room. It's like such bullshit. And we have to break away from that stuff. We've got to, don't talk about target markets. And I get it's a mechanic of strategy, but talk about it like you need to be thinking, I'm communicating this idea to my friends, to people I care about, to people in the community that need this. And I know it seems very obvious, but it's crazy how entrenched it gets. And if your vocabulary has that distance of like war room mentality and tactical decisions and everything, it's just yeah, totally. It's an opposition versus a unity.
Yeah. And how would you, rather than talking about target market, what would you use instead in the general sort of conversation at work?
Just who are the people? Like literally, who are the people that need this, that
identify with what we're talking about?
Yeah, and who are they? Where are they? And sometimes, I mean, we'll even name names of certain, try to really personify it in a way. But it's, anything we can to eliminate that kind of vocabulary.
That's really interesting. And so to that, because we're sort of dancing around this topic of purpose and company culture, and I know this is a really key part of your work, but also interest, and has obviously been forever. And, curiosity, and you talked a little bit of the killing of curiosity, but maybe you could just bring just your thoughts around that a little bit more, about purpose and company culture and the importance of that.
Yeah. Gosh, it's really nearly everything. Having a shared purpose is really at the essence of it. We've actually changed our practice pretty dramatically over the last few years in part of the effort to move away from some of the militant vocabulary. Mission and vision is powerfully embedded. Some people have been moving toward purpose and talk about more purpose-based ideas. We have started to work with a singular statement as the entry point of trying to identify a shared purpose. So something that you share with your audience, that you are one with this audience and you're moving together. So it's what are you doing with people versus a mission, which is often for. It's more of a service or something you deliver for, which distances you. So shared purpose then becomes everything about what you're doing, but you see it through a lens of being united with your audience. So we try to frame everything in that. And I think that's a change that I think the world needs and wants. I think culture is demanding that. And it comes in the form, people talk about transparency and all of those things, but it's really like, what actions do you take to truly be participating and inviting those connections? Our identity actually is two squares that are colors not unlike the beautiful top that you have on. This, I really love the Marimekko design that Philippa's wearing.
For our listeners, I'm wearing a top with sort of a big yellow. It's circles.
It's so optimistic and beautiful. I love it. And our identity is actually a painting reference. It's like Josef Alber's interaction of color. So it's these two squares, but it's the metaphor for the fact that the reality of contemporary idea making. So let's replace brand with idea. Contemporary idea making and purpose-based idea making is about it's like the metaphor of the interaction of color. When you connect with each other and overlap with each other, you change the audience and the audience changes you. So just like when Josef Alber's studies would show, when you converge yellow together with blue, there is a relationship where both of them are affected. Your view and your perception of both is affected. So that's a metaphor that we try to use to remind us it's a living thing. There's an exchange going on that is inextricably linked and dynamic, and it truly never sleeps. So that is how we try to link purpose and shared purpose into the decisions we make. Because then it's sort of like, okay, how do you emotionally, rationally, and culturally create the magnets that differentiate you. And then that helps you make decisions every day. So it's anybody in this idea should be able to understand those rational, emotional, and cultural differences through the lens of shared purpose. And again, it takes a lot of work to get there. Not to make it sound like, oh, those are easy things to identify. But that is, I think that's the essence. If you can do that, you can help move a culture confidently forward. You can help people navigate difficult things that happen in the world that are beyond their control, which is a reality, like climate. The climate crisis is a very real thing that's changing every one of our lives. And it's going to require cultures that are cohesive in their purpose and their ability to be empathetic. It's going to require having leadership that really embraces that to be navigating what's on the horizon, because it is not going to be easy.
I think this word culture is an interesting one, actually. As someone who's traveled so much and loves cultures, you look at culture, you're like, no, culture is amazing, because look at the food in Greece and the beautiful traditions in, Africa, I don't know, Ghana. And I love the music in Brazil. Oh, I love the Brazilian culture. But culture is actually a really dangerous thing, because culture also creates, the religious culture where people have to behave in certain ways, and there's no moving away from that. It's oppressive. And I think it's interesting because when we look at a company culture, you can imagine these big mammoth corporations that have developed these company cultures that I kind of compare that a little bit with the sort of the negative side of culture, where it's hard to change. And I think that's also where, like you said, it's not going to be easy. And this is where, as well, I think in leadership, we have to kind of start to remember that we need to be open, and we need to be flexible, and we need to be empathetic, and we need to ask these questions, and we need to start to kind of realize that, there's some great things in our culture, whatever that is, but then there's also the really negative things, and we need to kind of be able to navigate that, like you say. Right?
I think one way that helps me stay, looking at the horizon in a positive context in that, because you're right, it is a complex system of influences that happen, and how a culture emerges and how cultures can collide. But one thing I found, the term, the idea of collaboration comes up often, in culture, the ability to guide and manage in collaborative ways. And that's valuable. I do think that there's a little bit of a trap there, in that people have come to look at collaboration in cultural convergence more as an exercise in playing nice together, which is good. And there's a lot of great stuff written about it and practiced. But I think one of the things we need to keep in mind is it helps people, I think, move forward, even if there's real divergence, culturally inside or outside. If you remember, the value of a level of interaction is the third mind. The benefit of collaboration is to get to a space that you could never possibly have gotten to on your own. So if you are curious and you're empathetic and you understand together, what we're trying to get to is this transcendent third mind space, it makes the decision-making and the conversations, I find, a lot more effective and sometimes easier, because you're not focused on two convergent opinions. You're focused on trying to find this new space. And it really changes, if you can facilitate correctly, it really changes the interaction. And I think too much people get into being effective collaborators, but it's almost more like facilitation strategy versus understanding, well, what are we trying to get to? And it helps people make better decisions.
You love quotes. I love quotes. I think just for our listeners, every email I get from Michael has a different quote, and it's like each one is super inspiring. And I read them, I'm like, Oh my God. And he pairs the quotes with the message of the email. I mean, honestly, you must have like a bank of quotes. It's extraordinary. Just, so you must have so many quotes, but just for our listeners today, maybe, I don't know, based on our conversation or, something that inspired you recently, what is one of your favorite quotes at the moment? And how does it sort of represent how you're seeing the world right now?
Wow.
Not to put you on the spot.
No, that's a good question. And I guess I do a lot of, I love reading, and I do a lot of learning from that space. My son Eli shared with me actually is one that I really, really have found interesting recently. And I think kind of applies to this as we talk about the some of the traps of some of the vocabulary we've talked about and everything. But it's birds born in a cage think flying is an illness. And it's Alessandro Jodorowsky. Wow. And I think when you apply that to culture as people that are too tightly framed into a cage of thinking, and they can't even imagine flight, let alone they think it's actually some sort of illness or some strange thing that you would do. And I think it's talking to the constraint in a negative, the negative aspects of constrained thinking. So I think the moment of empathy, opening our minds and stretching our heads is really a key component.
I love that quote. I love it because I recently had a conversation with a professor from my business school. And at business school, I remember, anyway, I didn't really connect with my business. It was great. I'm really pleased that I did it. But it was, there were times we would chant, what's the main goal of business? To make money. I was like, oh God, that just doesn't fit with me. Anyway, I, for many reasons, I'm starting to chat with different educational programs or to see if there's different ways to integrate Thai. And a couple of people who've been on Thai recently graduated with an MBA from Wharton, and I'm going to be chatting to Wharton. And, But I thought rather than going first to Wharton, I'll chat with my business school. And I chatted with one of my professors, and it was unbelievable because this kind of what I'm doing and the vision of what Thai is all about, it didn't resonate. And she, and that's fine. Like, I'm not expecting Thai to resonate with everyone. It's fine. It might not. But I was actually really disappointed because the reason it didn't resonate was because it was what I understood coming out of that conversation was business is not going to change. We are screwed. Let's not try and pretend that things are going to change because we are all cogs in a machine. I'm a cog in the machine as a professor of this business school. And I don't believe that business is ever going to change. To be honest, we're all doomed, essentially. And I'm just going to keep doing what I do. And that's it, really. And I felt really emotional, actually, after that conversation. Not because I've got so many people who love what I do. And it's not like I was looking for her approval. It was that feeling, kind of like what this quote, that's what sort of reminded me of this quote, because it's that there's no way to change that this is it. And I truly in my bones don't believe that, because I'm all about challenging the status quo, and we have to at least do something.
Well, I think, you can hang on to the beautiful colors on your Marimekko top with optimism, because the dots are coming together. I think, you should maintain optimism because Thai is exemplary of the front end of the change. The person you talk to at the business school, in my mind, is like just what we've been talking about before. That person is not curious enough or interested enough or giving space enough to be listening to the alumni of the school to understand that human beings need purpose in their life that business is going to have to adapt to. And the consumers are going to be pushing the same thing. So I think that person's eventually going to learn that the ground she's standing on is changing. And the other thing is staying dug into that, not thinking, not only in business school, but education in general. Like looking at things like Masterclass, the whole idea of a learning lifestyle, like the pandemic catapulted how we learn. Universities and things are already in question. Is it worth the money? Is it set up? I make this huge investment in time and then it's irrelevant 3 years later. Like there was already radical questions disrupting that space, no matter how high altitude they were. Those institutions have cracks all over them. And it's because of that narrow mind, in my view, it's that narrow-minded thinking.
I agree.
If they were being curious about what are our alumni really thinking, and they'd see, to me, they should see TIE as, look at the action they're taking that taps into the purpose need emotionally that people have as they get further in their career. They want to know that they've got meaning. And it's like, we could learn something from that. They will find out.
Exactly. And see, exactly. And I really appreciate it because you've been so supportive of TIE over.
It's a brilliant idea.
For our listeners, I've spoken. Well, I really appreciate it. And we've obviously, we riff over Zoom a couple of times or 3 times a year. And I always, it's an equal admiration society because I really, I get so much from our conversations. But I appreciate your support because it's obviously, we do see alike. And I think, unlocking that empathy and that flexibility in people and them understanding the power that they have and discovering their personal purpose is what is going to drive these companies in the direction that it needs to go in. And that's the thing. It's sort of this, like you said, it's a mix of people working at the companies that need to identify with them, but also the customers that will buy stuff from those companies when they identify with them. And, the future of this planet needs this, but I think also from the future of you having employees and having customers is also as important.
So I have a quick prediction for you that maybe could be a possibility. not that I do predictions, but I was just thinking about like the reality of what TIE can represent and do. And I've been fortunate to see like the Leo Burnett project that was done with Vipla. And I mean, it was such a powerful demonstration and even done virtually, but it really, really incredibly powerful demonstration of what it is that you're doing. But I think what will happen is the more those stories are demonstrated and you see the effect of people being given the space for purpose and curiosity and applying their skills in that context and the resonant effect, I have no doubt that effort is now resonating within Leo Burnett. And when you're dealing with very top level communications groups, the clients that they are partnered with, they will become TIE networked people as well. I think they'll become part of this ecosystem where, because that applies not only to communications experts, there's communication experts that are inside many other entities as well. I think there's going to be this, I kind of look, if you look at a sunflower in the Fibonacci sequence of how the math just perpetually grows itself.
Yes.
I think you're in the early stages of that core pattern. TIE is in those stages, and I know you've been at it for a long time. I mean,
16 years.
It's not, it's not an idea that you came up with 6 months ago, but it does take time to build it. But I think you're in this moment where there's an exponential thing where culture has caught up with you. Is my gut. I think you're going to find, oh God, these stories are just kind of growing each other and feeding each other. Which is exciting.
Thank you for that prediction. It is exciting. And I have to say, since this last year obviously has been pretty crazy with COVID and everything, but it also, for so many reasons. And but if there are silver linings, I think one is that it has forced us, like you said, learning has evolved. It's forced us to realize just how we can push TIE in different ways. And now just being able to work with individuals and with corporates and virtually and impacting organizations now in places that we couldn't work in before. So we've got a project kicking up with BBH in Iraq and Syria, talking about the importance of mental health in that region so that, because obviously with a mental health vacuum, that's how, the Taliban, that's how ISIS starts to be born. And so supporting young people who have seen terrible things. And BBH is now going to be involved in a project that can do that through TIE. And we couldn't do that before because I couldn't send people physically. So it's really exciting.
Amazing.
Gosh, another thing that I get from Michael when we speak, I always get, oh my God, you need to check out this thing on Netflix, or oh, there's this amazing thing that you need to sort of check out. And it's again so much inspiration. So for our listeners, because I can't not speak to you and not share or have you share something. So what have you watched lately that got you thinking in a different way, or what's a must watch or must see for our listeners?
Wow. Yeah, we do have some fun conversations about this. And you always it's definitely an exchange where I get a number of things to list as well. Well, a few things. One old school thing I guess I would throw out is there's a book on the creation of the Plastic Ono band by John and Yoko that basically breaks down the thinking behind the experiment, which was the Plastic Ono band. And, effectively the first project post-Beatles breakup. And that book is worth seeing because it is an incredible deconstruction of Yoko's Fluxus theories and thinking applied to John's understanding of the power of music and message, combined with their third mind space of idea making, where they would recontextualize what advertising could do and be. I mean, it's a fascinating book. So
wow, that's on my list.
Promote an old school media of a book. I actually, with the Olympics, there's a film, Tokyo Olympiad, that was done it's a documentary. It's actually known as probably one of the most profound sports films ever made. And it was done in 1966 by Kan Ichiwa, and it's a stunningly beautiful portrait of the 66 Japanese Olympics in the Olympics in Tokyo. Oh. And what was really inspiring to me about it is it was the first time he'd done a documentary. And of course, the Japanese government wanted him to just make heroic, presentation of all the Japanese athletes. But of course, he wasn't going to do that. It was a documentary, and it was portraits of everyone and the lives of the athletes. And he did some amazing things because he didn't really know how to shoot sports, right? It was just aesthetically astonishing. He did this thing with Joe Frazier, so the big boxing moment. And he never even showed Joe Frazier in the ring. He only showed Joe with his trainer in the basement preparing to go into the ring. And he never even showed the boxing. He was more interested in the life of a boxer and the training and how lonely it is. And it was just mind-blowingly beautiful. So it's aesthetically incredible and just a celebration of humanity in many ways. So that was great. That's lovely, actually, because it's funny when you think of as a band or brand, I feel this with Thai, like really what resonates with people? What do you actually, as a human being, what do you want to see? What do you want to, CNN is showing the boxing ring. I'm seeing that on the news, but actually, what do I want to know? I want to know, what is the making of? What is the behind the scenes? What is the stuff that goes into this? Yeah. And it's interesting because that's why you would get excited about. That's why I would get excited. That's why, someone listening to this would be like, "Oh, that would be really cool," because I could actually see the rest of that on some. It's interesting. Then it gets into the whole vulnerability dimension. Like, are you willing to show the, the really complex reality of what it takes to do many things? Are you willing to hang yourself out there and try something you've never tried? It's really fascinating.
Totally.
I have one on the list I have not watched, but I would share with you and the Thai audience is The Painted Bird is a really powerful book by Jerzy Kosinski. It was written about 40 years ago. It's a story told through the lens of a 10-year-old gypsy boy at the end of World War II who's been separated from his parents. And I remember reading that book, and it was really a profound experience. And I've always wondered why no one had made a film of it. And a film just came out. Oh. It's a Czech director named Vaclav Morhal. It's Marhaul. But it's Jerzy Kosinski's book. And if you just look at the trailer, I cannot wait to see it. But it's got Harvey Keitel. The talent in this is incredible. So, though I haven't seen it, the trailer alone makes you cry. And it is so powerful.
Really?
Yeah, and the book is brilliant. So anyway, we can compare notes on it.
I'm loving these. Yes, absolutely. I'm loving these. So I am, after this, and when I start to edit, I will be writing everything down and getting it. So thank you. Well, we've come to the end of our podcast. I would like to just ask one last question. If there's anything that I haven't asked you, obviously I feel like I've sort of been firing all these questions at you, but is there anything that I haven't asked you that you'd like to tell our listeners, or is there anything that you're working on specifically at the moment that you'd like to tell people?
Let's see, what would be a couple of, well, there's a project that we're working on that maybe I'll share with you upcoming. Yeah. It's rooted, I guess, pretty directly to a lot of the things we've talked about. And it's inspired by a quote. It's a project that we've been working on.
Surprise.
But Oliver Wendell Holmes made a comment that, one's mind, once stretched by a new idea, never regains its original dimensions. And so we've started this idea called the Head Stretcher Society. And we're developing a number of different things, a number of interactions where it isn't just someone giving a lecture and kind of talking at the audience. You can very, very shortly introduce yourself and say, hey, this is who I am, this is what I do, but you've got to engage the audience in doing something they've never done before. And then we've turned that also into a series of short films that are like micro documentaries of just, based on the idea of everyone is interesting. We're doing these short films that are designed to stretch your perspective and your imagination as to what is possible in life. So we've got 3 of them done. We're going to be launching them in the new year, and we'll hope to continue to make them. But the Stretch Your Head Society is something that we're...
And where can people... is that something that normal people can see?
We haven't officially launched them yet. We're in the middle of making the platform, but I'll send you a note when we'll be launching them in the new year. But it's
okay, and then I can share it through our social media if our listeners just, if you're not following us already on Instagram, at the International Exchange, and then this kind of stuff would be great to share it, because that's cool. What a great idea.
So it's a fun project we have underway, and hopefully people will find interesting.
Absolutely. Well, listen, Michael, thank you so much for your time. It has been, of course, super inspiring. Thrilled to just have you as someone who's on our podcast on Thai Unearthed. So thank you so much for taking your time, because I know life is busy.
Thank you so much. It's really been an honor, and it's really fun to chat. I can't believe it feels like we've been talking for 5 minutes. It was just like, wow.
I know, and I know it's gone by really quickly. Thank you so much.
Right. Well, take care. So long. Bye-bye.
Bye. Hey everyone, this is Philippa again. I hope you enjoyed listening. Now this is your chance to get involved with Thai. If you work in the commercial world, whatever your profession, your position, or your experience, then Thai could be for you. You may have been in business for decades, but have always felt there's another way. Or you may just have a few years experience, but want to do more. Equally, if you want to create game-changing employees and see your company impact the world, we've got you covered. Thai has never been more necessary than right now, and you can be a part of it. Reach out to me at philippa@theinternationalexchange.co.uk and I can tell you more. Or join the Thai Accelerator info session for more information. apply.thaiaccelerator.com. Better leaders, better companies, better world. I'm your host, Philippa White. This podcast has been co-produced by Berna Vieira and me, music by Berna Vieira, and artwork by Kelps Vahais. I hope we'll meet again soon.